and we want to welcome our guest, special guest, Abe Hamadeh, who is a former Attorney General candidate in Arizona. Before we get into Abe, welcome. Before we get into what you experienced, with your election and with the whole process there, I just wanted to start off, and you jumped into, from the frying pan into the fire by deciding to run for public office. So what motivated you to run for Attorney General in Arizona?
Well, thank you for the question. When I first announced, I was the last statewide candidate in Arizona. I announced in November of 2021. I had just gotten back from my Army deployment to Saudi Arabia. And when I got back from Saudi Arabia, I looked at our country and I no longer recognized it. I think what we're witnessing right now, how things are changing so quickly, it really discouraged me. And it said, this is my generation's fight, I think, right now. I was the youngest statewide candidate across the entire country. I was 30 years old when I first ran, and nobody took us seriously back then, and now they are, right? Yeah. So there's this movement going on, but, I look back at why I'm here and what got me involved in the conservative movement. And for me, it was my parents. My family came from Syria 30 some odd years ago, and they landed in Chicago, right? And really cold up there. And they came to Arizona kind of randomly. My dad won the lottery. It was not very much, it was like $50,000, but it included a stay at the Scottsdale Princess Resort. And as soon as they got off the flight, they looked at each other and they said, wow, we found the Middle East of America. So I recognize, Arizona is so special and so unique and to the country, right? We have a border crisis right at the border. We have the criminals right now are running the streets, and this is what's going on. And it's so sad. The Democrat policies have totally destroyed America. And you're seeing that right now in Chicago when they get rid of Lori Lightfoot right there, the mayor. You see that in San Francisco and they got rid of the radical prosecutor up there. So you're seeing that all across the country. We got to make sure that we're putting common sense conservative solutions back into the Republican Party. And that's why I ran. I've been involved in the conservative movement, basically since high school. And I think it's because the values my parents instilled in me. And when I got back from serving overseas, I wanted to do my part for our country.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So you jumped into the election.
Right.
To say that there were issues is an understatement. Could you just share what you experienced? I know there were ballot printing issues, a whole host of things that occurred on Election Day.
Yeah.
Can you just relate your experience? I know there's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot, but I really want to make sure, because so many people want to say, oh, there's these election conspiracies, right? The media, that's how they always try to, deny what's happening. They call us election deniers. But I served overseas. I recognize how important democracy is. We've supposedly spread it across all over the world, and we can't even do it right in our country. That's a travesty to our voters. It's a travesty to the system that's kept our country together. So what we witnessed in Maricopa County, I don't know if you saw, but it was the printer malfunctions at least 30% of the locations.
Yeah.
And it disproportionately affected Republicans more so than anybody, because 75% of Republicans voted on Election Day. We were winning the Election Day voters 75%. And you saw that we were down 280 votes out of 2.5 million, the closest race in Arizona history, one of the closest races in American history. So we're still fighting, but I'm fighting because I no longer tolerate incompetence. The same people who told us we can't question elections are the ones who told us we can't question where the COVID came from. They tell us that we can't question Hunter Biden's laptop. Remember, they said it was Russian disinformation. So there's a healthy skepticism that's required in our constitutional republic. You have to question our government because, government sometimes is incompetent. They're the ones who run the MVD. They're the ones who run the post office. So I expect better from them. My family came from Syria. I know what it's like where you're not able to question the government. What happens then is that the president wins with 97% of the vote. Right. So I think it's okay to question. All I'm asking for is that we run our elections competently and smoothly. And it was such a disservice. What really bothers me about it is the voters who voted on Election Day they're already the ones who are the most skeptical of elections. And it's sad because I hope it doesn't disenfranchise those in the future. And I know right now, I think they try to crush our spirits, and it's only emboldened mine. So I'm not going anywhere, and that's why I'm here at CPAC and joining you two right now. But, we're still in this fight. We still have our election lawsuit going on, but, we'll see where that takes us.
So, Abe, can you share a little bit about that? I did have the opportunity to speak with Carrie Lake.
Yeah.
Is there, and I know that she certainly is not giving up. She's a fighter like you. Is there anything that you can do together? Because she experienced the same very odd glitches, machines not working, ballots printing. Where are you at on the legal front?
Yeah, so, I'm a former prosecutor, and we have to investigate what happened, right? I mean, they say that the printers were working the night before, and then all of a sudden there's these malfunctions. As a prosecutor, you want to investigate. And Maricopa County has appointed its own internal investigator, the former Supreme Court Justice right now. So where we are in the litigation battle, it's a little bit separate. Our case is separate than Kerry Lake. So with our case, is kind of unique, where we actually have more votes than my opponent. It's the provisional ballots. There's 5,000 uncounted ballots remaining in Arizona, and we have the party breakdown by these individuals. They're provisional, right? So they have to sign the envelope, and it's 75% Republican. So right now, if they counted every single ballot, we would be winning by about 2,000 votes. Some of them should not be counted because they were voted. They registered to vote after the deadline. That's fine. But there are other ones that our team has discovered where voters they voted in 2020 or 2018 or even the 2022 primary. And for some reason, the government canceled their voter registration. That's an odd situation. That's why we're still in our election litigation battle. And so we asked for a new trial because at the time, Secretary of State Katie Hobbs withheld critical evidence from us. It only came out after our election lawsuit. Maricopa County also withheld the provisional ballots from us. So that's why we're asking the courts. I'm a prosecutor. I respect the rule of law. And truly, I think that these judges, they know what they just did. They played fast and loose with these rules. You can't get away with withholding evidence in a trial, and that's what we were going up against. When the government has all the evidence and they tell us, go prove your election lawsuit case, it's very difficult. So we're asking for a new trial in Arizona, and we'll see what happens, but I'm pretty optimistic we're going to get one, and I think there's a 50-50 shot. I'm really measured in everything. I think there's a 50-50 shot that we will pull it off and actually have more votes than my opponent when everything is counted.
And if you have more votes, you could be sworn in as Attorney General.
In Arizona, we have precedent to remove a sitting governor, actually. We've done that before. We've removed a sitting governor. That took 11 months. So hopefully this doesn't take that long, but it's already been 4 months. So there's precedent for that. So it's not as if we're saying the judges to create this new, especially in today's day and age. I mean, nobody seems to want to talk about elections, but to me, it's very important. I mean, election integrity matters, but we have removed a sitting governor. We've removed a county supervisor once they've discovered that they, in fact, did not receive the most votes. And my legal team are very competent. The RNC has actually been really helpful, and their data team has been very useful to us going through all the provisionals. We believe we have the most votes. The reason why the provisional ballots are so disproportionately Republican, they're all same-day voters on Election Day. So
Right.
that's why it affected us. So I've never seen a case in election law history where I literally have more votes than my opponent, but now she has taken office. So we're trying to see how we can get those votes counted.
So
right now.
important that you're doing this because the future of our nation and our free and fair elections really depend on these types of wins is what I hope that we're going to see here and addressing the problem. The American people deserve that, and they deserve to go to the ballot box and know that their vote is counted free and fair. So thank you so much for that. When you look forward to 2024, are two questions related to 2024. Do you think that we're going to see free and fair elections across the United States of America? I mean, you're someone who's in it yourself. What is your optimism? As we do a lot of work also there, Abe, on that front.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really, and that's what bothers me so much about incompetent government officials. Because once you have incompetence or elections, once you have long lines, once you have printer malfunctions, it really erodes that confidence that we're so trying to claim and reclaim, especially after 2020. What I'm trying to tell people is that they're trying to demoralize our spirits. And I think 2024, every one of us know what's at stake right now. I mean, we have to make sure that Republicans take back a majority, in the federal races. But we saw how important states are, too. And it's so critical, not just in the county races, but look at the school board races. I mean, they're going after, how they've infiltrated every aspect of our lives. And it's scary. I know some personal friends of mine, they've been debanked. I mean, this is this is not the America that we all remember. This is stuff that happens in banana republics. And that's why 2024, we have to have optimism and hope. But the biggest thing is to keep holding them accountable. I think the biggest failure that we discovered was telling people to vote on Election Day, because it basically gave us our strategy for a possible nefarious actor to maybe sabotage the printers. But when you have 27 days of an election, use every single day, right? I mean, that's every single day becomes a new battlefield. So that's what we have to get smarter on. I think we're seeing all the presidential candidates also acknowledging that. And I really want to make sure voters still have trust in it and make sure that you go out and vote. Because what they want right now is to disenfranchise just 1% of Republicans would cost us many, many seats all across the country. So we got to have faith in it.
Well, let me tell you what's going on with AMAC members in Arizona. They have been highly engaged in contacting the state legislature and getting good election integrity legislation passed. They played key roles in 2021. After the 2020 election, Abe, we found ourselves at the state level because our members demanded that we get involved in election integrity, and that fight was going to take place at the states. And we have tens of thousands of AMAC members in the state of Arizona who are completely engaged on this issue. So I hope you take some comfort in that.
Thank you.
So do you think, and keep fighting the good fight. Yes. Obviously, I admire your perseverance and your energy, and that's what it takes to win a battle like this. Rebecca asked free and fair elections, but if we kind of drill it down to a micro level in Maricopa County, will they ever get their act together?
And that's what requires us to change those. Once in the business sector, if you fail, you get removed. And in government, it seems like they're rewarded. What's so sickening, after the election, I see them calling themselves election heroes. They go and get awards. That's what's so disappointing. That's a slap in the face to so many people who actually want their votes to count. When I voted overseas in the 2020 election, I voted, the way I voted actually was by, in the military, I had to email my ballot. And I don't think that's right either. There was very little safeguards for that. And when I returned back to Arizona in September of 2021, I had multiple mail-in ballots at my house.
Wow.
Right? They're not cleaning the voting rolls. No. There's a lot that we can do. And different states, I was just talking to Senator Rand Paul the other day. In Kentucky, I think 97% vote in person. And yet in Arizona, I think it's about 84%
I
vote
live in
by
Kentucky.
mail.
Right. And I work the polls.
Right.
I can testify to that.
Yeah, and it's you can vote absentee, but it's very difficult. You have to sign, you have to explain the process. And so I think that's what's important for us to realize. Every state is different, and we have to work within the system we've got. So when I say that, Arizona has 27 days of voting, take advantage of it, right? And I think Republicans too often, we want to do the right thing, but we have to make sure in order to do the right thing, we have to get into elected office and change the rules, right? And that's what you're working with the state legislature. And thank God we have got a strong Republican state legislature to be a good check on power in Arizona. And God willing, somehow there's going to be 280 plus more votes. I mean, remember, our election we were down 511 votes before the recount. And then it went down to 280 because Pinal County, another county, by the way, they had a lot of problems with the machines not tabulating certain votes. So, this is still, there's nobody that wants this over with more than I do, believe me. I keep telling folks that. So it's, I just want to make sure we have the legitimate person who won in office. That's all I'm asking for, is to count these votes and to make sure we have confidence in our democracy.
And it's what every resident of the great state of Arizona deserves. And
Absolutely.
I pray that we are speaking to the Attorney General, right? That's what, when we have you back again, that's the news that we hope to hear.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your amazing fight, and
Thank
keep
you.
it up.
I will.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Good luck,
Hamadeh.
Abe.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.